afternoon everyone, thanks so much for stopping by. So today we're going to be working on our little snippet roll, which will be decorating our Easter table, and we'll have one little one little scrappy snippet roll for each of the people attending our Easter lunch, and I'll be spelling out the letters of their name on it as well as other little embellishments. Now before we get into doing that, I wanted to show you how I create these little origami style hexagons. So it's not the traditional hexagon method, and excuse the motorbike that's just gone past the window. It's not the traditional hexagon method that you'd use for paper piercing of quilts, etc. But it's a little origami style one. I actually learnt it last year when I was doing the 52 flags handmade. I'm not sure whether Anne herself showed it or whether I looked it up when I was creating some little hexagon pieces. Now the way I do it is I just use a jam jar to draw a circle on some fabric. I use my friction marker to draw the circle, and then I cut out around the circle. Now at this stage you can give it a blast with your hairdryer just to remove the black line if you want to. I'm not going to worry about doing that now. The next step then is to fold your circle into 4 quarters. Probably don't need to say 4 quarters because a quarter is a fourth. Happy Sunday. It is Sunday afternoon. I'm very relaxed, so hopefully I make some sort of sense. It is a Sunday of a long weekend, so I've got the Monday off, which will be lovely. Now I've got a threaded needle with a knot on the end, and I'm going to pop through from the printed side of the fabric through to the unprinted side, right where those quarters intersect, so the middle of the circle. What I'm then going to do is along one of the quarter lines, I'm going to bring up the side of fabric to the center and just make sure it just is touching where the thread is. I'm then going to rotate it around and bring the next corner up and do the same. And then I'm going to find where the next corner of the fabric, so you're going out to the edge to find where you've got that little corner where the fold has created a corner, and you're going to bring that in. And you're going to rotate around. You might just need to move your thread. You don't have to bring the thread through at this stage. I just find 1, it gives me a point to work to, and 2, when I want to stitch it down, it means I'm not trying to hold the piece of fabric down while I'm trying to get the needle to go through the fabric and potentially having it all unwind. So I'm going to just move the thread so it's just pointing through there, and then when you come to this stage you should have a pointy end, which means you've done it, your folds are correct. If you had a big non-pointy end, then you might want to actually go back and just refold it again, because it probably means that one of your folds wasn't quite at the right angle. Again, depends how particular, how perfect you want to be. And then using the threaded needle, I'm just going to pop some little stitches in to hold those bits of fabric in the center in place. And because I'm going to be using the hexie up this way, I'm not worried about the stitches on the back, and usually when I use these hexies I put a little embellishment or something on the center of them, so it doesn't actually matter if there's a few stitches showing, or you could do some little knots or something else at the center of them. Helps if I come through the right way. Oops, we've got a knot. Always have knots when I start a video, don't know why. Keeping me on my toes. So I just wanted to show you this because it's another little something that you can make to go on your snippet roll. Obviously you wouldn't do one of this size. I just did one that was a bit larger for this because I wanted to show you the technique, and if I was doing something super tight, teeny tiny, you probably wouldn't be able to see the technique in the video. Just get that one to sit in a smidgeroo more. And yeah, you can use whatever fabric. If you've got some fabric scraps from doing something else, it's a good little thing to use. The Suffolk puffs are great because then just having some of them in your stash is super. And these are great as well. And if you did want to use them as hexies on the other side, you just wouldn't do these stitches through here. You would just, I don't know what I've got, oh, that's the little tail there. That's right, I can chop that off. You would just do the stitches on this side so that it was held on this side but without going through, if that makes sense. But I'm planning to use it so that I get the enjoyment of looking at the folds. Because it does remind me of something sort of quite Japanesey. Very sweet. So we'll just put a knot on the back and we'll put that in the stash for another project on another day. Always exciting to have the prospect of more projects to go. I do often comment to people when I'm looking at other people's videos, like I've been watching Martha with her Hearts project. Would have loved to have joined in to do the Hearts project, and would have been quite meaningful given the little challenges we've been having lately with Alex's heart. But yeah, just only so many hours in the day and only so many moments for crafting. Anyway, that's the little origami hexie. Okay, let's get the paper out of the way. So yeah, in this assembling today, I don't think I'll be using this one, but I think we'll be using this little one, which has the same technique on it, and I've just put a little button over the top. So since we last looked at this project and we're starting off this project, I've done a few things. So in the last video we were stitching together our snippet roll, and I have subsequently added another panel to it because I decided for spelling out the name of Emily Rose I would actually need a longer snippet roll. Sorry, let me just see if I'm fully in frame. I think I am there. Hopefully my ponytail doesn't keep bobbing into frame. And then I've also taken my white painted wooden dolly peg, and I have put a little piece of fabric around it. It was a little snippet that I'd cut thinking I might use it on my snippet roll, and I've attached that using some fabric Mod Podge, but I think you could just use regular Mod Podge or possibly PVA. So I just painted a bit of the Mod Podge on there and then stuck the fabric around, and then just for the back edge I just painted a bit more on and just sealed it down. I've also used these super cute little tassels that I got from Kmart, I think, a while ago. When I got them I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use them for, but I've decided to use them on these little dolls as a little hair or little hat. And the great thing is they've got, if you can see, a little hook on them. So I figured when I come to give them to people, I can put a little piece of ribbon in, or possibly they can do it afterwards if they want to, but they can also be then a little hanging decoration, which is kind of cute. So they could be sort of multi-purpose, either hanging like that, or they can sit on a piece of card, for example, or be sat on something like that. So they're the two options. And so the idea, and the reason I did that was just so that there was a bit of something decorative around the neck, because when I put this on, I'll put it on the flat of the peg, if that makes sense. And in my little snippet roll, I've put a pin there because I think I'll probably just leave this bit that wraps around her so that I can then just sew it in place. I'm thinking if I sew it in place, it means that if for some reason the person that gets it doesn't want to keep it on their dolly peg, they could still slip it off. And then if they want to hang it up somewhere else, they could hang it up that way. So I won't put it on the dolly peg yet, but I just think this is super cute. And then I've just drawn a little face on, two eyes and some little lips using just a Sharpie marker. I actually had the medium tip ones. I couldn't find my very fine tip ones, but they worked okay when I worked delicately. So yeah, that's my base, and then I've continued to embroider all of my little letters. So I've got E-M-I-L-Y and then R-O-S-E. And it was lovely to hear, do you see, of your mum, and yeah, her similarities in her name, but also just her shortened name, or what people call her, of Rosetta, which means little rose, very sweet, or rosebud. That is very lovely. Yeah, and I was really happy when my brother and sister-in-law named Emily Rose, because just such a gorgeous name. Makes you want to do really pretty things. So I've got all sorts of little snippety things. You can probably just see them at the top, and I have put them in some sort of broad order, although they've all sort of moved around just as I've been showing you bits and pieces. So I thought we could arrange them, pin them down, and then we'll work out whether I go off camera and do some stitching, or we can do some stitching on camera together. So we'll see how we go. So this is a little piece of embroidery that I have fussy cut out, which means just cutting around quite closely, and I'll just check we can see at that end. So I thought I could put that down here, something like that, and I might need to pin as I go. So I'm pretty sure that will go there. I'm just going to have to see as I put this all together, and I guess it is an experiment, so I will stitch it all down. It's probably going to get quite thick around her body, so I'm thinking eventually I might need to put a scarf or something that will sit over her body and just give her a bit of extra proportion at the top. But I suppose it doesn't have to be perfectly proportional. And then I've got my little E, so I'm thinking, no, I think we'll have to just put it over, and that's fine, putting it over the green, because green's not a particularly dominant theme for this. Where's my pins? Pins in, using nice fine pins, because some of this fabric is quite fine and I don't want to create any damage to it. Whether I should be putting, I guess we can come back, and whether I should put anything else under this, but I think it's got the two decorative elements next to it, so it probably doesn't need too much more. No, it's not the right colour. Now I did this decorative, is it fly stitch? I think it's fly stitch. I've actually got to print out a picture of all the stitches so that I remember and call them the right things. And then I've got this tiny little Suffolk puff that I created. I think I used a little mini Bon Mama jam for it, just the bottom part of it. I think that makes that size puff, or it might have even been a smaller something. Yeah, that one might have actually been even smaller. But it's fun to play around and see how small you can go with your little puffs. This one I haven't put a button or anything in. I figure I can come back and work something out for that. I've got this lace that comes from a larger piece of, not that lace, it's something similar, but it's got other colours on it, but I just thought I'll take the bit that's got the pink. Might put that there, and then we've got the Emily, the M. So I hope you're all having a lovely day. We've taken it pretty easy this weekend, just done some nice walks and things, very gentle walks, because we're just seeing how Alex is doing. He is feeling weariness with the meds, but he is, his blood pressure is definitely a lot better, so we'll definitely take that. And he's just been resting a bit more. I did a big amount of work in the garden yesterday. Whether I add that, I took a little video while I was down there, and Travis munching kale, so I'll be sure to add that at some stage, whether it's to this video or to another one, maybe to one of the Roxy garden, down the garden path pieces, because it kind of goes with that. I've got this little cutout of some fabric with a little flower on it. Not sure, you probably can't see that well down below, so I'll show you things a bit closer up. And then last night we had a movie night, which was a bit of a novelty for me because for the longest time I've been just watching my YouTube stitching friends in the evening, but there was a movie that I'd wanted to see when it first came on at the movies, and then I saw Prime was offering it as a rent or buy, because I think it's a nominee for the, don't know which awards are coming up at the moment over in the US. So I thought, oh, that's a good chance, because we're not really doing movie going. We can't take Trav with us, so at least we could all have the premiere at home on the couch. And so yeah, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Thoroughly recommended. It's very, I guess it's light. It's got, yeah, a couple of heavy little references in it, but it's a very light movie. I think some of the reviewers sort of described it as saccharine or sugary sweet, but it's got its ups and downs in the movie, and yeah, just quite touching. And some lovely. Might put my little letters on a bit more of an angle, I think. I don't want them to be perfectly straight, because that way if they don't end up perfectly straight, it looks weird. But if you make the effort to make them look a little bit crooked to start with, then any crookedness will actually look like a design feature. These are my tips and tricks. Does that one need to go up the other way so it actually looks like, yeah, it probably needs to point up. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and it had one of my one of my favourite quotes in it was when she's at Dior and looking at all of the people working. She comments, she's just sort of looking in awe at them working, and she says, "It's not sewing, it's making moonlight." And I just thought, wow, that's such a great little saying. So we're not doing sewing, we're making moonlight. Even though we're not doing haute couture, we're doing slow stitching in its imperfection, which I'm sure wouldn't be allowed for haute couture, but yeah, we're making our own special type of moonlight. Now maybe I'll put that on the angle as well. So I used just a bunch of ribbons as well. I was lucky a while ago to get a massive plastic tub full of beautiful ribbons. So I've just got so many. A lot of them I didn't even use for this one. Yeah, just great. This was just some of the pink. There's just heaps and heaps. So I'm trying to use those when I can in my pieces. Okay, so we need an L. Might actually take that pin out and we can pin it down when we pin this one. Which letter? That way, that way, that way, this way. With the letters, I try and just then sort of alternate the angle that they are on. It's quite a silky fabric, this one. Might even be a real silk, I'm not sure. Again, most of these are from the Reverse Art Truck samples. I've got this little one that I think was going to be originally a little scale on a fish that I was making as part of last year's 52 flags handmade, but I didn't end up needing all my scales, and so I've just cut it to be in the shape, instead of a circle, which it was, in the shape of a little Easter egg. So I don't want too many Easter eggs references or Easter references in here, because it is just something that I hope people will be happy to have around sort of all year round. But nice to put a little reference. So probably actually, oh no, that's all right. We'll pop this one here. I was thinking, do I want to keep the little crosses showing? But we might just go over the top of that, I think. And I might just pin that one, these two down together. So I've just put a little piece of lace underneath as well. It's all just about creating, I think, just nice little layers. Again, I don't know quite how thick it's all going to be when it's done. If we have to revise our plan, we can. But we'll see how we go. Emily, okay, and then some bits of thread. Just little piece of fabric from like a patchwork design fabric that is super sweet. Again, I think I got that from the sewing layer. Put that there. And then I think I'll put this little origami hexie in the middle to sort of separate the Emily and the rose, although I've also got a nice little rose as well. I wonder. Or do I put the rose there? That might be even better. Just have to see how much space I have as to whether I can. And I might put that one on that angle. I've got this little bit of fabric that I just cut from a stripy fabric, and a bit of lace. Problem with all these little bits is you get so many little threads hanging around. And a little O. Be enough contrast, or maybe I'll use this lovely little piece of cotton lace, vintage lace, which is very sweet as well. And so when I was embroidering my letters, most of them I just did freehand. Some of them, like an S, which I find a bit trickier to do freehand, I actually did that with the friction marker. Got a little Travis hair on it. Travis says thanks to everyone for the compliments on his little video with me in the sea. He thinks he's quite the rock star now. So Travis has gone off with Alex to visit his parents. Alex needs to pick something up from down there, so I figured it was a perfect chance for me to have a bit of quiet, slow stitch time. We took a little walk this morning down at a nearby nature reserve that's also, I think, a water retarding basin or something. It's got a function in the water system as well. But there's lots of bird life, and then there's farms on either side with cattle and all sorts of things. So it was funny, I was looking across to the cattle thinking Travis would look at them and get really excited, but instead he seemed to be getting excited looking at the farmer's four-wheel drive that was parked near the fence of the area. And I was wondering, why is he kind of, got his ears all pricked up looking over there? And then I realised there was a big shaggy dog sitting inside it. So Travis had obviously sensed that the dog was there, even though we couldn't actually see him. And he was, quite excited that there was a dog doing surveillance on him. So I've stopped pinning as I went along there. Just pin them down, and then I'll have a look how we're going for time. So I thought I'll put a ribbon in at the very end because I can possibly use that to tie around or make a little loop that can then maybe attach to this little Suffolk puff. I'm not sure yet exactly. And if I don't need it, I can always take it out. To make sure I don't accidentally stitch any pins in, although I shouldn't, but it is going to be a bit tricky because I do have a lot of pins in here. So So there might be some ouches, so that might be a reason for me to do that off screen rather than putting you through ouches and possibly some naughty words, which sometimes happens when I get pricked with a pin. So I also had a nice relaxing read while having my coffee this morning of a magazine that I got through my, well, not my most local library, it's the City of Melbourne Library, so our sort of central city library, but they have a massive digital catalogue and has access to the app called Libby, where you can get books, but you can also get magazines. And so I've just been having a look what sort of embroidery or stitchery magazines they have, and they've actually got quite a lot. And so I was looking at one called Embroidery, the Textile Art magazine. And I was looking at the March-April edition of this year, and they had a really interesting article on a lady called Rebecca Devaney, who is based in Paris. She actually went to Paris to learn embroidery and then worked in some of the fashion houses, but then has moved to running textile tours in Paris. And I thought, I know a couple of the ladies, Corinne and Susanna, I believe you're off to Paris to take part in some other textile and haberdashery tours, but I thought you might want to look up that article. Or and also Rebecca Devaney has a Instagram account that I've subsequently looked up that's called Textile Tours of Paris, so you might want to have a look at that. Might be some of the same places that you're going to go to on your textile tours, but thought it might be of interest, and I know there's others with wanderlust amongst our little crew of stitchers out there, so thought it might be of interest to some others. And yeah, it's worth having a look if you do have a local library. Check out if they've got sort of digital access to things, because it's great just being able to read things on your iPad or iPhone and get inspiration. And this embroidery magazine has fantastic diagrams at the back and sort of hand-drawn, well, not hand-drawn, line-drawn pictures of the different designs that they've featured. So I'll definitely be saving and printing some of those for some future inspiration. So I might leave that open at the end so I can decide about adding the ribbon, so I won't stitch down at the very end over here. Now let me just give you a bit more of a close-up. Hopefully it's visible. So there we go. Lots of pins in it, so you might not be able to get the full vibe. But I think because it's not going to be that interesting to watch me just get these first elements stitched down, I'm thinking I'll just do sort of a bit of invisible stitching, although on some where there's a big contrast I might do some more some more visible stitching, because it will be visible anyway. So I might sign off for now, but I will come back and show you once it is all stitched down, and we can also just look at anything else I've done differently as I've been stitching it down, or anything I've learnt along the way, and then we can attach it onto our doll at that stage. So thanks so much for watching, and I will be back very, very shortly. Hi everyone, so it's only been literally a second for you, but it is now Monday here, and it was Saturday when I was filming the earlier piece of this video, but I'm back to share the finished product of my little snippet roll for Emily Rose for the Easter table. So in the end I ended up going with a design where I roll it up to almost create a long dress on her, because what I found when I rolled the completed snippet roll around her at the level of her sort of bust, that it ended up really thick. But if I roll it graduating down the body, and I'll show you in a moment, it ends up looking like a beautiful long dress with lots of lovely layers. And then I had to, at the end, work out how I would attach the roll, because I didn't want it sort of unrolling, but I want an easy way, particularly for Emily Rose, but she's only a little girl. I don't want pins or anything, sort of pinning this, or even safety pins. So I decided to create just a little ribbon enclosure. But anyway, let me unroll and show you what it looks like. Now I've got this quite close up, so you'll be able to hopefully see the detail. The sun is streaming in the window, so I hope it's going to be good light for you to look at and not too many shadows. So in the earlier video I had showed you how I'd put the little tassel on for the hair and drawn the little face on, and then I'd put stuck down with some fabric glue from, oh goodness, from not Yoo-hoo, what's it called? Mod Podge, that's right, Mod Podge fabric glue. I had stuck down that piece of fabric as a little underpiece. Now what I did with the end pieces of fabric, as I showed you, I'd left a little bit of extra fabric that I wasn't decorating or pinning things to, and what I did was just a series of little stitches following the pattern, so really stitching where the white was or the stems were, to just stitch this on. Now I've left it so that it can be moved around the body, so I can sort of get the layout how I want it, and it also means if they want to take this little banner off and use it separate from the doll, they can as well. So it isn't attached to the pin, the wooden peg. It is so it's movable. So how about I show you the detail? So I've just done a lot of, it is just over stitching down the raw edges, which is what you want to do when you've got raw edges on things. As we go along, you'll also see that I've added some little seed beads. These were just some vintage seed beads that I got off Facebook Marketplace a while ago. So I've used this beautiful piece of vintage embroidery, and then I've got all my little letters, and I've added seed beads at 2 of the corners on that. I've then got my little Suffolk puff or yo-yo with my fly stitch and little beads down the stem of that. And then got my M again with beads, a little bit of corduroy, so all of those have just been over stitched. I've done some little V stitches around the edge of the corduroy. Then we've got the eye. Done some little cross stitches across here, little kisses. Then I've got the little Easter egg, which I've just done an overstitch around the outside of. I then did some blanket stitch around the outside of this one. Again, if you don't know any of these stitches, overstitch just looks nice. It just adds that nice detailing around the edge. With the hexagon, this sort of origami style hexagon, I just caught around the edge pieces because I wanted it to still have the puffiness. You can see that. Then just some more over stitches around that little piece, keeping the beads falling throughout. Then I did a chain stitch on my S. And then some more little, oh, there's a bit of, oh no, they're just over stitches. They look almost like blanket stitch. And then stitching around the flower here. And then I did a range of beadwork on the lace, and then I also put beads all the way around underneath where I've got that rose button popping up, because it's one of those buttons with a shank, so otherwise it can be a bit wobbly, but now it's really secure in place. And I also did just a really cute little row of buttons atop the ribbon there. And so with all of that wound around, I like to wind it actually so it gets that little, I think I'll just have to adjust it again because I did move it around with you. So I think I'll just adjust it so it's like that, and then see if I can get its nice little rosette on the front of her when she's all wound. That's the good thing about making it a bit adjustable, is that you can just see we've got a couple of loose threads there, so we might just snipperoo those out of the fabric. Oops. Let's See if we can get our little rosette to be where we want it to be, right at the front of it. That's exactly how I want it, because I want to be able to sort of see up from the little rose there. And then the ribbon can just go around, and this little bauble can then just tuck under the ribbon and hold the skirt in place. So let me just get that. Sorry about the shadows from the sun. So that is the lovely little decoration for the table, and something that Emily Rose can take away and hopefully treasure as something that her auntie has made especially for her. So I'm planning to make these for each of the ladies. Originally I was planning to make them for the men coming as well, but I've got another little idea to make a little basket, little rectangular or square basket with slow stitching on it for the men, because I thought that's something they can probably use to then keep their keys and other bits and pieces in. So I'll have a play with that, and then I'll probably share a video for that. I saw someone posted something on Instagram that was like a rectangular fabric slow stitch tray that they'd made, I think for some people attending a workshop or a session with them. I'm not sure what their construction is, but I'll have a play around. I'm thinking of using some old quilted material as maybe my base, or otherwise I can use a cardboard interior potentially. I've also got some plastic containers that never had lids with them. I actually got them, I think, from Alex's parents. Brought them up one Easter or something in case we had leftovers. So I wouldn't be buying plastic to use, but potentially I could use that as my base as well, and then be putting a fabric outer around them if I need some structure. But if there's a way I can do it just with fabric and maybe with card, that might be better. So anyway, here's my little Easter decoration. I hope you like her. I'm really happy with how she's ended up, and she's a really now little treasured, hopefully treasured piece for Emily Rose. And a nice little memento from their visit to Melbourne, which I'm very excited about. So I hope you're all having a lovely Monday. It's a public holiday here, which is a bonus, and the sun is shining. It is blue skies, as you can tell by the sun blaring through the window. So probably going to take Travis down the park soon for another walk. So take care, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.